We're going to start, this is just a snapshot from 2017 of the demographics of the current workforce. And you can see that the millennials are the biggest group in the workforce right now. They're at 35%. By the year 2020, they'll be 50% of the workforce. So significant. The traditionalists are starting to exit, obviously. The boomers are also starting to exit. However, some of them may be coming back and around for a second career or in some different capacity. Our Gen Xers are still way up there, but again, the millennials have already overtaken them and they'll continue to go up. And the iGen is just now starting to enter. I know we do have some in our workforce. I took a look at our most recent numbers. They're only about 1% of our workforce right now. They are just, their oldest are 21. And we're going to talk a little bit about them and the differences between the millennials and that group. In order to have the discussion, though, we want to talk a little bit about the characteristics of each of the generations. And we have to remember when we do this that these are really generalizations, right? They are not everyone who was born in these years has these characteristics. Some may have a few, some may not have any at all. There is not one generation that's better than the other. We had some pretty interesting discussions this morning regarding challenges. So we want to have some fun with this. So we're going to kick it off with a little 3-minute video. It is very exaggerated, and I'm sure some of you have already seen it. But this is a baby boomer interviewing a millennial. Oh, no. It's not there. Oh.
The audience took it.
I'll take a look at this really quick, and I'll go ahead and tell you about the traditionalists, and then I'll have Ray work on the boomers because I do want to come back to that. And it was here earlier, right after lunch, I checked it. The traditionalists are obviously the oldest group that we have still in the workforce. They are currently 73 to 96 years old, so I'm guessing that we don't have a lot of 96-year-olds in our organization, but we all probably have people that are in their 70s that are still working for us. They value hard work, dedication and sacrifice. You get what you earn. Duty comes before pleasure. They have respect for rules and chain of command, and they are loyal not only to their organization but to their country. They are, very loyal people. They were impacted by the Great Depression and the aftermath of that and World War II. What do they want from us as employers? They want respect for their experience. They want an opportunity to contribute and an opportunity to learn and teach. They want job security. And this is just fascinating to me to go back and look and see that from a technology perspective, when they were younger, radio was the emerging technology. So quite a bit has changed since then, right? In business communications especially, very, very formal. Memos, letters, face-to-face, telephone. A lot different than the way that we typically communicate now. I'll give you this and see if I can, I don't know.
She's going to see if she can find that video. Sorry about that. So it's a real issue. I'm not sure we could solve that. Others? Anyone else want to throw anything in there? from important events in our life, of course. Improving economy. Again, there's that rebel stuff with demonstrating civil rights, voting in the Vietnam War, those types of issues or events for us. We expect to be included. We want to be part of it. We want to be part of that team. We're involved as a part of the team. We do like our moments in the snow now, don't we? I like, when you do something well, you like to stand out. I'm getting too far away, I apologize. And for us, again, communication, as I said before, for me, was always communication via email, or excuse me, the phone, face-to-face, or even a memo. I was most comfortable with. Would you ever get it?
I can't. When we break into groups, I'll try to pull it up then. So let's talk about Gen X. In our court, as I mentioned, this is our biggest group. They are currently 38 to 53. They value diversity. This is where we really start to talk about the whole work-life balance thing, right? Boomers live to work. Now we've got to start to try to balance that out a little bit. They are self-reliant, fun and informal, loyal to their skills as opposed to loyal to the organization or to a person. They want to say, you know, while I'm working here, what am I going to gain? What am I going to learn? They support the chain of command, but they're more self-focused. And why are they self-reliant? Well, this is where we start to have latchkey kids, right? Mom and dad are both at work. Kids are coming home from school by themselves. What do they want from us? They want job training and retooling. Again, we're building that skill set, building that toolbox. They respect different lifestyles, and they expect their employer to have respect for different lifestyles. They want flexibility, and this is really tough for some of us in public sector because we don't have as much flexibility, obviously, as you can have if you work in Silicon Valley. They care less about advancement, and I mentioned to the group this morning that I just read a SHRM article just recently that a lot of organizations are really struggling, especially at that first line supervisor level, to get people who are interested in promoting, because they would rather maintain their flexibility and that work-life balance than sacrifice that for the promotion or the monetary reward. Obviously, very rapid advancements in technology. The communication now is shifting to a more informal type of communication, lots of emails, right? Where everything used to be done via memo, now we're sending a lot of emails and getting things done much more quickly than in the past.
Okay, so where are you? Where are the millennials? Raise your hand. Yes. Is that it? That's all? I thought there'd be more. Okay, I joked a little bit because this is a group that, for those of us in baby boomer ranks, push-ups all the time, and it's a good push, but getting used to it. These are, how you deal with people, manage people, and work with people is shaped by some of these things. They're civic-minded people, and they're very confident, and they're confident in their skill set and what they can do.
The heads are shaking, yes.
But it is personal life is oftentimes ahead of that career or that work. And that's a change for us. Loyalty, as we said, loyalty to skills. Again, not real big on chain of command stuff. And I have quite a few millennials who I work with, and we go around to get where they need to go. So, but again, they have respect for diversity, and they're very optimistic on whether it's personal, social, or work issues. Some of the major events in their life, as you can see. By the way, anybody like me didn't know what a helicopter camp was? Anybody? All right, fine one, please. I guess I am. And then,
He didn't know either.
and one of the things that we do in Maricopa County is that we have a new onboarding event, half-day event, once a month. So we have 20, 30 employees who show up. And one of the things I always do, I like to go and meet every new employee we have, and I talk about 15, 20 minutes about the branch and about the importance of work, not the job that you're in or whatever, but the importance of the institution these kids came on board with. And I remember I was there touring, and this young lady walked in from 25, something like the room in right behind the board gym. And I noticed he shook my hand, had the same last name. So we sat down, and after a while, I was like, I don't know what's going on here. Her father went to the new onboarding first day. I know, for Dan, we had a nice chat. It was all good.
True.
But that's, I guess, an example of a helicopter. So. That's bad. I don't know how he got in, but he did. But, so that's an example of one of my stories with millennials. Again, their expectations, constant feedback. But again, in real life, I know this. I've seen this in work. They want to hear it. Money is not the big issue, like we talked about those values. Money is not always the driving issue for them. They do want to move. Let's go. Get on with it. What's my next step in this organization? And valued and respected. To be mentored. How many of you have mentoring programs? How many are thinking about it? No? Think it's a good idea? We have a whole big chunk of our workforce now that is interested in this, wants this. And so, again, we'll talk about the solutions later, but something on your radar you might want to think about is a mentoring program. And again, this is 10 hours a day on the phone or whatever it is, and the device, communicating and all with everyone on everything, whether it's social media or personal matters or even work. So, very tech savvy. Hi, Jen.
This is the generation that we haven't talked a lot about. I mean, everybody's been talking about millennials for quite some time, but this group is just starting to come into the workforce. As I mentioned earlier, the oldest is 21 this year. We do have some in our organization, but there definitely are some differences between them and the millennials. A lot of the data that is available on this group is via like marketing and advertising agencies, because they've done most of the research at this point on this group. But they prefer a cool product over a cool experience. They're entrepreneurial and very, of course, tech savvy. We all know that, right? Always on, connected 10 plus hours each day. 60% of them say that they want to change the world. They are realistic, and they have a respect for diversity as well. They're self-directed. This group grew up in the aftermath of September 11th. They have weathered the Great Recession, and they live in a time of school violence. And so it's shaped some of their views. What do they want from us? They want to convert their hobbies into full-time jobs. Some of you that have children probably recognize this, right? And we see this with people who become YouTube stars or whatever the case may be, right? They make a career out of something. They're more interested in job security than the millennials. More will go directly to the workforce after high school. And that's a really interesting statistic, because they have seen the aftermath of the student debt problems, right? And so there's also a lot of industries who have put a focus on trades again, and trades training and that kind of stuff. So they're going to be the first group, they're predicting that they will be the first group that there will be less of them that go to college. So they'll be entering the workforce directly. They're more interested in job security. Why is that? Probably because they've lived through the Great Recession, maybe their parents lost their home, whatever the case may be that's impacted that. They're extremely tech savvy, always connected, and always on their smartphones. Again, we all know that, right? This is out of a Forbes article, and this is a contrast of the iGens versus the millennials. The iGens use 5 screens and communicate with images. They create things, they're future focused, they're realists, and they want to work for success. Millennials use 2 screens, communicate with text instead of images. They share things instead of create things. They're focused on the present as opposed to the future. They're optimists versus realists, and they want to be discovered. So now that we've got some characteristics of each of these groups, what we'd like you to do is get in small groups. I know it's difficult the way we're sitting, so just work with a few people that are around you. And we'd like you to identify what you think might be some areas of potential conflict and some areas of potential benefits of having the 5 generations in the workforce.
When you do this, think about your own workplace and what issues you may have right now or have had or maybe will have in the future based on all this. So it's I didn't even have it on. I just turned. Right. Look, I got it on now. Yeah.
Somebody loaded the wrong one. This is it. There's the thing. So before we start pulling out the stuff, we'll go ahead and show it.
Good.
Amy, it says you are trained.
Yeah, I can kick it from there.
Amy, it says you are trained in technology. That's very good. Are you adept at Excel?
There, perfect. That's perfect.
So we'll just start with that?
Yeah.
Okay. What?
That's okay with you.
You do whatever you want to do. Huh? So what's it, like a 4 or 5 minute video? Yeah. Couple minutes. Sounds good. come here to see it. Exactly. All right, how we doing? Ready? Let's go.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
God dang it.
Look. Right. Okay. A lot of good discussion going on, huh? All right, so can we bring it back? Hello? Can I get your attention, please? Thank you. We fixed the video.
Yeah, we got the video fixed.
What we're going to do is we're going to show the video first, and then we'll get back into debriefing over this exercise. So go ahead, Danna.
Okay, so I know that everyone really has no problem identifying the challenges, right? That's why as soon as we break into groups for that, it always is, there's a lot of talk. But what I'm going to do now is we were able to get the video loaded. So I'm going to show you now very exaggerated millennial job interview. So this is our boomer doing the interviewing and our millennial as the interviewee.
Amy, it says you are trained in technology. That's very good. Are you adept at Excel?
No.
PowerPoint?
No.
Publisher?
Not really.
Exactly in what area of technology are you proficient?
Snapchat, Pinterest, Instagram, Vine, Twitter. You know, the big ones.
I'm surprised you didn't say Facebook.
That's for old people, like my parents. That's funny.
Well, Amy, when you're working for me, you have to have those kind of research skills because I'll send you things for you to comb through and get the answers and send them to me. So for that, you got to be really good at technology.
For stuff like that, no problem. I'll just ask Siri.
You'll just ask Siri?
You know, Siri tell me this, Siri find me that. We're all good at getting you the answers.
Tell Siri I want you ready to go at 8 sharp each and every morning.
I don't understand
What don't you understand?
what you just said.
You don't understand be ready to go?
No. You said 8, right?
Yes.
8 like in the morning 8?
Yes, in the morning.
Yeah. That kind of doesn't work for me. Who gets up at 8?
I do.
I Skype with my French boyfriend in Paris until like 3 in the morning. I don't even get to Starbucks until like 10, where I order my grande chai tea latte, 3 pumps, skim milk, light water, 2% foam, extra hot, but not too hot. So if it's okay, I work best in the morning at 10:45.
Wow. Amy, I don't think we're going to be a good fit.
Why are you so negative? I can sense your hostilities, and right now I am not feeling very safe. I've been here for over 5 minutes, and the only nice thing you have said to me was nice resume, which I typed all night for this meeting with you. You've given me no guidance, no validation, no encouragement, no supervision. Is there an HR director somewhere?
HR director?
Yes, I need to speak to someone. I may have to take off today as a mental health day.
Take the day off. Amy, look at me. You don't work here.
Are you firing me?
Okay, yes.
Okay, it is overly exaggerated, and I think we can see some things
Really?
on both sides of that that
I have a lot of people
interaction.
back here saying, not really. It's not really that exaggerated.
Well, they don't say that she can be at work at 10:45, but she's willing to work until 10 p.m.
Yeah, that may be the case, and that's some of the stuff that we want to talk about. Let's talk about what some of you identified as challenges. Who wants to volunteer? Come on, I
So
know
what did you talk about in your little
that
groups?
people.
What are challenges for you guys you're seeing right now in your workforce? Yes, ma'am.
I think it's not necessarily challenges grouped by generation, but the aspect, for example, the cell phone. It isn't just the younger generations. It's not just millennials. It's actually just part of our culture now. Now you have, I mean, when I started working, we were used to the phone calls about the end of school. They would come in. A kid would say, "Is my mom there?" And you'd have to say, "Who's your mom?" And then they would say that they're home now. Well, now that's no longer the phone call on the court line. Now it's a text that's coming through, and it's all generations. But it's how do you manage that? Because when people are getting texts from their parents, their kids, all those throughout, they just thinking, "Oh, I'm just going to send a quick message." So I don't know if you can necessarily say it's one generation, but just a change in our culture altogether.
What else? What else did you come up with? Yes.
I guess
Thank you.
part of the challenge is that you're having two different generations working together, one as a support staff and one as a supervisory staff. And it's difficult to make that relationship work if they were both generations in the position of, I guess I'm laughing. If it was the same generation as the supervisor and same generation as the support staff, it would make it much easier and probably more productive. I think the hard part is you have the baby boomers or the millennials, and then you have as the supervisors, and you have the iGen, and you have the millennials as the support staff. And it makes it hard for the supervisor and makes it hard for the support staff, because for the supervisor, not get that productivity that they want, and then for the support staff, they can't find their way to grow and advance and signal that I want to grow, I want to be part of your team, but they can't get the message across.
Others? Yes, ma'am. Right here.
Oh, no, I was going to hand it to Pat.
Oh, okay. I got it. Yes, Becky.
Wanting recognition for basic duties. They do the bare minimum, they do their job, and they want recognition for it. They want patted on the head. I'm like, your pat on the head is your paycheck at the end of the week.
You sound like a baby boomer.
That is a baby boomer response, absolutely.
How do you deal with that? That's different motivation, isn't it? What are the other areas you talked about in your groups? that
There's
are-
some up here.
You just pretend.
No, so I've got a group of my senior admin team, and they're from 21 to 67, 68. So I've got such a broad group of high level, but it's interesting because we just hired our first iGen, and it has been an extremely major learning curve for our team. But he's
In what
actually-
way?
He needs lots of praise. In which he said that. And he told me on his second day, how quickly do you think I can be the manager? And I said, I mean, it was the second day. And so I had read quite a bit of, before we hired him, I've been reading quite a bit about, and I've got some millennials as well. And so I was just trying to, but my older staff members, my baby boomers, are like freaking out because they're just trying to figure out what is going on with this dude. And it's just interesting. I mean, he dresses different. She mentioned dress code. He does dress differently. We had to talk about that. You know, you cannot go with no socks to a city council meeting. You know, I mean, it's just simple things that but it's a lot. I'm a praiser, so it's a little easier for me. But my next in command is not a praiser, and she told me, she goes, you are going to have to let me borrow your pre-written notes so I can drop them off while you're out of town this week. So
There you go. Others? Anybody talk? Go ahead.
We talked about communication being a big thing. One example I didn't mention in the group, but in that communication thing is the difference between the chain of command and, a judge wants a letter from an attorney, either not signed or signed by the secretary, basically, which would require the secretary practicing law without a license because she's trying to get an order signed. Another thing is we talked about that they're still in that job mindset. They've not moved to the career mindset. And that lack of, I noticed in your slides, you didn't have the loyalty in there in the last couple of generations. And that's because they're not thinking career-based, they're just job-based.
Right, and it's more loyalty to their own skills as opposed
developing
to,
skills.
Again, those of us who are older, it was to the organization as well. Did you have a comment, ma'am? Yeah, sorry. Excuse me, I want to sneak by you. Sorry.
I noticed the problem with, not problem, but the conflict with our help desk because they're all Generation X, but they're training baby boomers, and so when they're talking very, very fast when they call, and we're like, no, slow down, I gotta take notes on what you're saying, and their mind is just going as they're, teaching everybody how to move through the system, so.
Yes, ma'am.
We focused on the conflict between baby boomers and millennials because they're really very antithetical. They both want respect, but baby boomers don't give children respect. And so the children want the baby boomers to respect them, but the baby boomers are looking like, when you live on the earth for 30 more years, then I'll give you some respect.
Good. Anyone else? Thoughts? Ideas? Becky, I'll be right back.
I think that if that's the approach with the millennial,
If that's the approach with the, hello? Yeah, if that's the approach with the millennial, I think HR is going to get a call.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have to be really, really careful about that.
Good point. Go ahead. Did you? Yes.
So we talked a little bit about the conflict where the millennials have a lot of flexibility, and whereas, I don't know if it's the traditionalists or baby boomers, they expect that chain of command, even in an instance of like calling in sick or calling in for a day off or whatever, where I believe the flexibility of the millennials are, I'm just going to call somebody on my team, and somebody will get the message to somebody. Whereas,
yes, exactly.
Or I'm going to text
more
somebody on the
traditionalist,
team.
having been raised by somebody who lived through the Depression and was very influential on me, I'm like, no, you call me. I'm the supervisor. I'll be the one to make sure. Well, because I think I lived where you actually had sick time versus paid time off, and now it's like one big pot of hours, at least where I work, so they don't feel like they have to discern whether or not they're sick. Or it's flexible to them. I'll just take time whenever I need time, whereas in my world, no, you call in sick at the last minute when you're sick. Not just because, whatever.
Good
So-
point. Yeah, thanks. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
In our group, we talked about just like the differences in all of the iGens, millennials, baby boomers. But for me, one of my staff, well, a few of my staff are millennials, and what I find is that they're very good at their job and they can do it very quickly. But once they're done, they'll go on their phone, they'll be on the internet, instead of taking the initiative to ask, is there anything else that I can do, or, just doing something else. So, I'll have to say to them, when you finish with that project, come over here. I got a whole pile of stuff that I can give you. So, they don't take initiative. That's what I find.
So those of us who are in that baby boomer generation, are you a little annoyed? Do you get a little annoyed sometimes with all this demand for flexibility and why can't you just come to work 8 to 5 like everybody else? Does it annoy you? Honestly, it does me a little. I mean, we're going to talk about solutions down the path and, alternative work schedules and all those things. Really wasn't something I really embraced early on. But as we find out, and as more and more of these people who demand flexibility and more of that in our workforce, we got to start thinking about it and competing because other groups are doing those types of things. But I know always for me it was like, geez, just come to work. Don't worry. Oh, I need this and that. So, anyone else want to share anything from their group discussions about the potential conflicts? Oh, I'm sorry. Can you pass that one over? Thank you.
I
have an iGen on my team, and yeah, every so often the head clerk has to send out an email regarding dress code. Well, I don't think this girl got the idea, but anyway, she showed up to work last week in a dress that I was like, oh my word. I had to pull her aside, and I said, you know, I've been flexible with some of your dresses. Some of them I don't really agree with, but that's just me. But this one was so short that, you know, I'm like, you know, this is just not going to work for me. And she goes, what? I'm wearing shorts underneath it. And inside, I'm going, honey, I see cheekies. How short are your shorts? But I can't say that. And I'm like, you know, just don't ever wear that dress again. And I should have sent her home, but I was really short on staff, so I just basically made her sit at her desk all day.
And one of the things that we're going to, need to talk about is that we may have to adjust a little bit. I mean, it's easy for us to sit here and say, well, the dress code or the texting in sick or whatever the case may be, but maybe we have to set some parameters and really talk it through with people, because one of the things, and I was going to show that, you guys have really hit on all of this. Potential conflict is motivation, the way we communicate, and perceived work ethic. And that is really, I think, important because the phone thing, for example, you're on the phone the entire time. It makes me think that you're not doing your work, right? But is that really the case always? Or are they able to be on the phone and still put out a good work product? And I think that some can, for sure. And, in the interview, would it have changed it completely? Maybe not. But if he would have asked her to put the phone down to begin with, just asked her, just made a request. Amy, I'd appreciate it if you put the phone down so that we could talk, so that we could have this interview. Instead, he's probably feeling disrespected because she's looking at the phone the entire time, right? But does she miss any of the things that he says to her? No, she doesn't. So some of those things are our perceptions. And if we are going to recruit and retain a qualified workforce, we're going to have to talk about some of our own perceptions. Yes?
Yeah, but how do you juxtapose that with the plenary speaker this morning who said that if you're multitasking, you are 30% less productive if you're focusing on one thing or another. So I think there are a lot of variables.
Agreed. I agree. So let's move on to not solutions just yet, but benefits. How many of you came up with some of the potential benefits of having the multiple generations in the workforce?
Right. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
I have the...
Well, again, we focused on the baby boomer and the millennials. And because their skill sets are so different, they make a great team when you can get them to respect each other. Because the baby boomer has all this knowledge and information and historic information about the court, and the millennial has all this technological experience. And if you can get them to merge the two, you get manuals and procedures that look like they have been produced by a Fortune 500 company.
So how are you getting them to respect each other?
Well, that's more difficult.
Anybody have a thought on that? I mean, you made a great point. Anybody doing anything along these lines in your courts? Yes, ma'am.
We're rolling out all new case management systems, and so one of the things that we did as we rolled out to each of the areas of litigation is on the first day of training, we did a kind of overview of what's the big view of the court and everything else. And one of the questions we asked was, how many years of experience in this area of litigation? And a lot of them had 15, 17, 20 years experience. And we stopped to make a point that even though we're changing case management systems, those 17 years of look at all the things you do know in the courtroom, we're just changing one tool. And so really emphasizing the importance of the knowledge that they're bringing to the table, as opposed to focusing solely on the technology. Yes, they need to learn the new technology, but emphasizing all the things that they do bring to the table.
What other benefits come from this big melting pot of generations under the same workforce? Yes, right, going right back.
One of the benefits is the creativity and innovation that comes. So they represent, the millennials and the younger generations represent a huge population that we're serving. So they bring in that perspective and change up the practices. I know one thing we did in our probation department is now we use Google Text. It's free, but it was one of these ideas that was brought in from a younger generation, and now the older generation is using that to communicate to serve our probationers.
Excellent. Anybody else? Benefits. What else? What other good things come from this group? Yes, ma'am.
We had the benefit, we had a support staff as a case manager. She was, I think when she retired, she was 82. And she worked as a family case manager and probate guardianship case manager. And she, in the 7-8 years that I worked with her, she never called sick one day. She was at work 7 in the morning, and she wouldn't leave until she finished the job. She was in the division that never had a backlog. Always work process complete. I could not get a change across her, but I never was worried about the workload.
Oh, yeah, good point. Others? Yes, ma'am. I won't have to go to the gym today.
I find in working with the newer generations, they are very open to change. They learn things very quickly, and if you said, hey, I know you've only been here for a few months, but we have a new place we'd like to put you, they're open to that and willing to try something on and actually enjoy switching gears frequently and often, or frequently and rapidly, because it keeps them stimulated, I find. And so that really helps us when we have a particularly difficult spot to fill in our courthouse. We know that one of the newer, younger generation folks will volunteer. They don't even have to be recruited. So
I agree. I have, as I mentioned too, worked with a number of millennials who are in key positions in our organization, and not only are they open to change, it's changing. It's not even a matter of being open. Let's change this. Let's try something else. Let's do something different. And that, again, is good for the organization. I'm sure that the lady sitting beside you, you push your boss, because your boss is a baby boomer like me, so I'm sure you've done that as well. So, and so that's good for the organization. Anyone else identify any benefits?
I had just said in our group that you have to play on the strengths of the team that you have. If you have a millennial, an iGen or millennial, it's very good technologically. Then if you have a new system or whatever, that's who you give the work to. If you have a report that you need, for the writers, the baby boomers or the older generation will, write much better than the iGens. So just play on the strengths of the team and, to get the work done as a team.
Okay, and I think, again, you guys hit on all these points. The diversity of having the multiple generations provides us with multiple perspectives. We have a variety of different problem-solving methods, and we have increased opportunities for mentoring and coaching, and I think we hit on that quite a bit. So now we're going to break you back out for just a few minutes and see if you can come up with some solutions, and then we'll come back and share those.
Look at your workforce. Consider the issues. What would you like to do to address them? What are some of the programs or ideas you may come up with to address these generational differences? And maybe address that respect issue. Think about those.
Programs that you have in place in your organizations already. Oops.
Yeah, we got 10 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, because then we have some solutions, and then we can talk a little bit more about that, let them work them out. Our office is so divided that we became Sacramento, like, newer division, and I was like, so I started calling it team, and that was the best.
My phone. Okay.
The same player, and so our challenge is because we
Okay, can I get your attention again, please? Ready? Okay. What we'd like to do, Danna and I will share with you some of the programs and solutions we utilize in Arizona in just a minute. But first, we'd like to hear what you came up with. What are your thoughts and areas and how you might be able to address these issues of work,
over here, Ray.
generational workforce issues?
Ray?
Yes?
Right over here we have
Over
volunteer.
here. Excuse me again. There you go. Mm-hmm.
Yes, in our courts, having the millennials there and some of the younger, even younger generations coming through, the millennials come to our job and they sit there just for a little while and they look at our job descriptions, and most of our job descriptions require a degree. And they are like, we didn't come, maybe they have a 2-year degree and the job requires a 4-year degree or a master's. And they're like, we're going to sit here forever because we don't have that education and we're not even interested in going to school to get it. So what we're having to do now is adjust our job descriptions where we are accommodating and saying your work experience can substitute for some or all of the education to include them.
Have any of you else had that experience where you're trying to look at? Yeah. You're requiring more.
So a lot of us promoted up through the ranks just based on experience, but a lot of the newer employees coming in, they're coming in with masters and going for their PhDs. And so we're just now starting to change some jobs to require degrees, where before the experience would cover for it. So it's actually opposite, yeah.
Over here. Thank you.
So we do an hour and a half. I know it sounds long, but we do an hour and a half meeting every 2.5 weeks. But I started with a very broken team. I've been there 10 months in this particular court. So, and I've got all generations. And so it's been really helpful. We do a positive management tool, a training every meeting. But I assign each one of them a topic, and they cover it. We also have mentors across the city. So we're in a large city, but they have a mentor, and we pick somebody that's older or younger than them. And that's been really helpful because it's helping them see from another perspective in a safe place that's not really our place, kind of how that person sees something. They have come a long way. I do a scorecard, a 380 evaluation every month, and we have come from a horrible score of 21 to about 93 on average. So we're getting there as a team.
Sure.
They're rating our team. But again, it's time, and it takes 3 hours for me to prep a meeting because I'm very specific on what I want to cover. We do TED Talks, different things that are free because we're a government, right? But a government entity, we have no money. And then the other thing we do is every month I give them teacher's tools for $1 or dollars to a Dollar Tree. You can get them. I do those little cutouts, different die cuts, different things that I see in the teacher's tools or at the Dollar Tree, and it's $1. And I give it to them once a month. They have to give 30 away during a given month. So it helps my iGens and my millennials get their pat on the backs. But what I found is my older staff members love it.
Really?
They love it. So I think they really secretly want it. They just don't tell anybody.
Others? Yes, ma'am.
I find as we talk about the dress code and the work hours, and I don't know that it's so much a Generation I or X or Z's problem. I think it's more of the baby boomer problem, not wanting to conform and move on.
You're saying we're the problem?
Yeah. Right, we're the problem because we have to
We
move
gotta go
forward.
Go
So the people behind us had a very difficult time when we came out of skirts and nylons and blazers and stuff, and so they really struggled with that. Now we're struggling with a lot of skin showing, tattoos, piercings. So I'm not sure that it's their problem as much as ours adapting. And your 8 to 5 doesn't work in society anymore. So
I've been doing it for 40 years.
no, I mean the way people's
Just kidding,
shifts
just
are.
kidding. I know
Yeah.
your point is well taken. It's
Yeah,
well
the shifts that people work and
Right.
you
That's
know,
why
the
I said to you
410.
early on, you know, it's taken people like Danna and others really to push me. I will agree with you. Some of it is really, maybe a lot of it is really us, and because we look at things differently, and you know, why can't we all just be the same and do the same? But hey, we got to move forward. And so we'll click on the first one. I'll come back. So some of the things we're doing, we just want to share with you. Maybe you're doing them too. How many of you have flexible work schedules?
Oh, this a
Well,
lot. A lot more than this morning's
All right.
group.
Huh? Well, what? But you can still flexible work state. You can have nine. You know, you can work 980s, that kind of stuff. How many? What's that? I'm sorry. Really? So most of the baby boom. For those of you who don't have it, is that a final decision, or are you giving it some thought?
It's a challenge
Huh?
with the court.
Or even in your workforce, is it being talked up by anybody in your? Yes.
Well, I know that they just started flexible in our court because we're mandatory e-filing in our civil division, so people can file up to like 11:59.
Yeah.
And we are high capacity court, file much, so we do give them a chance to give them a flexible schedule where they don't have to work 8:30 to 5.
Right.
Or, you know, just work 4 days a week, 10 hours a day.
How many of you allow people, employees, to work from home?
Some.
Huh? Interesting.
This is definitely a more
I'm
flexible
a baby
group.
boomer. I struggle with that. I really struggle with it. And so, but we're doing it more and more, I guess. So.
We need to talk. One of the things that we've kicked off in our court too is a new recognition and rewards program, and again recognizing that everybody wants to be recognized differently, and so we have to take that into account, right? And one of the things that we found out by the work that we did on this, it was one of our strategic project committees, is that a lot of our staff want to be recognized by the bench. That is really important to them. And the judges, that we had a couple judges on our committee, and they were so surprised by that they wanted this like public recognition. So we're going to take some time at the beginning of the bench meetings to call out some folks. Career counseling and skill development, we are just kicking this off. We don't have a program in place. How many of you do have a program like that? See a couple anyway. That again, we're helping them build skill sets, but we're also hoping that we're going to see the return on investment. Mentoring and coaching, we've talked about that quite a bit, but taking advantage of that experience and linking that up with somebody who wants to be mentored. And then lastly, you can do a lot with your onboarding and orientation. I know Ray mentioned that earlier when he talked about the girl whose dad came with her to our program. But we've really tried to turn this into, we've taken out the compliance-based piece of what is new employee orientation typically. We took all the policy kind of stuff out, put it into computer-based trainings to make that more interactive, and we can actually gauge their learning. And we've made our half-day event, it's called a welcome event now, and it's very, it's designed to be inspirational. Mr. Billotte does a big piece of that in explaining the nobility of working in public sector, the judicial branch. And then at the end, our presiding judge comes in, and all of our new employees are sworn in and they're given a coin. And they just absolutely love that. We've gotten really good. We've actually seen a reduction, a significant reduction in our first year turnover. Now I can't attribute it all to that, but we think that it really helps. We assign them a peer buddy, which is somebody who meets them on the first day to kind of guide them around. It is not the person who's training them on the job. It is the person that they can go to ask questions that they think might be embarrassing to ask the person who's been training them or the supervisor.
How many of you have been through your own orientation and onboarding program in your court recently? I challenge you to go through it. Danna was not the HR director at the time, but when I went to Maricopa, I went through the process and I was appalled. No one was helping. I didn't know where to go. We had 10 buildings downtown, and first day I'm walking here, go here, go here. I'm sitting in the sheriff's office with defendants all around me while I get fingerprinted. I mean, it was, to me, and I said to her, this is not the way we want to introduce the new people who are coming to work to our organization. And so they've really redesigned it and made it that half day. It's not about the policy of you can and can't do this. It's about coming to work for what I believe is the best branch of government and the nobility of that. So kind of doing that. So anyway, I just wanted to pause and give you...
I think that takes us to the end of our time.
We're open question. I know we were late. We apologize. If you had any other questions you want to see us, please do. Thank you very much for your...